let's remember just a little bit what we did last time. Last time we were still talking about the Beinoni, and we were talking about the Oved Elokim, somebody who's considered to be a servant of God, and somebody who's not. Interestingly enough, the one who's not is actually on a higher level. What do you mean he's not? It means that for him it's easy to be a Beinoni. He doesn't need to do hard work, it just comes easy. He needs to think about God for 2 seconds, he loves God, and he does the right thing. The Beinoni who's the Oved, he has a hard time. He has to battle against God constantly. But he's considered to be a servant of God because he constantly breaks his nature. He does one more than he can, constantly. That's what we talked about last time. This week, we're going to start and discuss how this Beinoni, the Oved Elokim, how does he keep himself in a situation where he's going to continue to be a Beinoni. And you remember, being a Beinoni is extremely hard. It's doing the right thing in everything, not in one mitzvah, in all mitzvahs, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So he needs to, if he's just going to relax, he's not going to be Beinoni. He's going to revert to become a Rasha. It is impossible for a Beinoni to stay on the level of a Beinoni if he doesn't put effort into the system. And for the Oved Elokim, how much effort is required? One more than he's used to. He's constantly fighting. He's constantly 100%. His engine is revving, all the time in order to remain a Beinoni. So today we're going to find out a little bit of how he can maintain being a Beinoni for such a long time. For his entire life. That's such a long time. So let's start. We're on page 69, chapter 16, 69 at the bottom, or 42 at the top, whichever one you like. If you like the English, 68, chapter 16. Perek Tet chapter 16. וזה כלל גדול בעבודת השם לבינונים. This is a very important rule when it comes to the service of God to the Beinoni. העיקר הוא, what's the Beinoni's job? Beinoni desires physical pleasures all day long. So what's his main job? למשול ולשלוט על הטבע שבחלל השמאלי. To always control his natural tendencies that is in the left ventricle. That's what he is supposed to do. In other words, in his natural state, what is a Beinoni? In his natural state, he wants and he desires all the physical pleasures in the world. Baruch Hashem. See, right over here, all the physical pleasures of the world. Yeah, that's what the Beinoni desires, right on time. That's what the Beinoni desires. And what does he need to constantly do? He needs to constantly control his desires. And we're talking about, when I say constantly, I mean all the time. And how is he going to do that? How is he going to control his desires? Al-Yedei Or Hashem is going to do it by bringing in the light of God, Hama'ir Lenefesh Elokit, who's going to shine to the godly soul. That's how he's going to do it. We are on page 69, page chapter 16. Shebamoach, where does the godly soul reside? We already discussed it before. It resides in the intellect. And through the intellect, what is he going to do? Lishlot al halev. He's going to control his natural habit. We know the natural habit. Desires for worldly things. He needs to control it constantly. Think about what a work this is. By the way, this is our work. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to control our natural desires. What's our natural desires that God put in each and every one of us to survive? We're an organism that wants to survive. In order to survive, we want as many women, as many food as possible, and as many pleasures as possible. That's the desire to survive. And we need to control it in order to become a Beinoni. How does he do it? So now we're going to see. Over here, he's just going to give us the rule of how we do it. On chapters 38 to 40, he's going to tell us how. Over here, he's going to tell us what. Over here, what are you supposed to do? What is a Beinoni supposed to do in order to maintain the status of a Beinoni? He needs to meditate. Now, don't get the wrong impression when I say meditate. People think about the Eastern culture when it says meditation. Jewish meditation has got nothing to do with that. Jewish meditation means thinking and learning about God. That's what meditation is. Yeah, and we're going to discuss this again, exactly what to meditate on, how to meditate. Chapter 38 to 40, that's going to be in the future. But now we're going to see what does he need to do. He needs to do, כשמתבונן, he needs to see במוחו, in his intellect, בגדולת אין סוף ברוך הוא, in the greatness of God. Let's just pause over here for a second. Many people think that you can be righteous or you might be a Beinoni because you were born this way. What does it mean? Because you were born, a person achieved a certain level and now he's a Beinoni or now he's righteous. If a Beinoni or a righteous person a righteous person does it automatically because he wants to. A Beinoni doesn't want to. Remember, a Beinoni wants to concentrate on his physical pleasures. He has to force himself to concentrate on what? On godliness. If he's not going to actively force himself constantly, he's going to stop being a Beinoni. Which means he needs to be in a state of constant learning. He cannot stop for 1 second. Otherwise, he's not going to reach the level. What does he need to do? Leholid mebinato. He has to contemplate the infinite God. Ruach dat v'irat Hashem. He has to have the awe of God bemocho, in his intellect. Let's explain what does it mean to have the awe of God in his intellect. There's many things you wouldn't do. You're at home, right? Every man has a desire to take I don't know if every man, I'm talking about myself. Me as a man, I hope I am, have a desire when I say the orange juice, the orange juice container open in the refrigerator, I have a desire to open it and take it and drink it. That's a constant desire. Why don't I do it? Because I'm afraid that my wife is going to see it and then I'm going to hear about it. It's not worth it. So the fear of my wife keeps me from not doing it even when she's not around. Not only when she's around, even when she's not around. So this Beinoni has the same thing. He's not going to go against God. Why? Because he constantly has the awe of God. He has on him the awe of God. He never says to himself, God is not looking. I can do it. Or like us, never say to yourself, the wife is not at home. I can do it. Yeah, the same thing. He will not do it. Also, when it comes to positive commandments, says God is looking. He's expecting me to do it. I have to do it. So in other words, the fact that he has awe of God, why? Because he contemplates godliness. We're going to see how in chapter 38, 38 to 40 later. But he contemplates about it and it keeps him throughout the day from not going against God. להיות סור מרע דאורייתא, to keep himself from evil, from sinning, from commandments from the Torah, ודרבנן, even commandments of the rabbis, ואפילו איסור קל של דבריהם חס ושלום. Even a small little custom that the rabbis came up with, which is not a halacha. He says, God wants me to keep it, therefore I'm keeping it. God told me to listen to the rabbis, therefore I'm listening to the rabbis. So not only does he have the awe of God that continuously keeps him away from sin, he has something else. By the way, the awe of God does two things. It keeps him away from sin, and he does one more thing. It makes him do commandments. Again, not because he loves God, because he has the awe of God. You better do it. You're expected to do it. So he does the commandments. But he's not going to do the commandments on a regular manner, we're going to see.
How is that different than fear? Fear and awe, it's almost the same, right?
I can explain. Good question. You know what? I'll explain it quickly. You're going to hear in Hasidus many times the words awe of God and the words fear of God. The best way to explain it is one is close and one is far. And let me explain what I'm saying. One is close and one is far. For people like us, it's actually hard to imagine. But put yourself in a state of a Russian peasant in the 1800s. The way he looked at the Tsar. You know what the Tsar is? The Tsar is a king. And the Tsar is a real king. Americans have a hard time contemplating what a king is. A king means that the peasant thought of himself, you know what I am? The Tsar has a goat, the Tsar has a castle, and the Tsar has me. I am a subject of the Tsar. That's the way people viewed themselves. A completely subservient to the Tsar. Right? So the peasant in the 1800s, put yourself in his step, and he hears that next month the Tsar is going to come and inspect his farm. You know what a feeling he has? Awe. Awe of God. Yeah? Then there's going to be a day when the Tsar is going to walk inspecting the Tsar, inspecting this farm, and then he's going to walk next to him. And if that peasant, you know what he might do? He might faint when he sees the Tsar. And you'd ask him, why are you fainting now? You already knew that the Tsar is coming for a whole month. But he says it's different. Why is it different? Because the Tsar is right here. It's close. This is the difference between awe of God and fear of God. Awe of God, yeah, I'm afraid of it. It's intellectual. He's God, he's almighty, he's this, but he's not right here next to me. Fear of God, that mighty thing that you have awe of, is right over here, he's looking at you. It's a whole different feeling. Or you can say it, one is more intellectual, one is more visceral. It's right there. Fear is right there. Fear, you feel it in your kishkes. If you've been to war, if you hear bombs, you know your whole you feel your kishkes go like this. Or your kishkes don't go like this. Intellectually, you know it is. You know, in the army it says you feel it in your tushik. You know, you feel fear. You don't feel awe. Keep it for many, many things. There's an advantage to this, an advantage to this, but some other time. So not only does he stay away from sin, he also does commandments. And he does commandments not regular, like we do commandments. When he does commandments, he has Ahavat Hashem belibo. He has love of God in his heart. Which means, and when we say he has love of God in his heart, the Benoni, we mean it. If you connect him to a machine, to look at the sweat, to look at the blood pressure, to look at his heartbeats, When he davens or when he does a mitzvah, you can physically see it on him. He sweats more. His heartbeat goes higher. It's visceral. He loves God. It's not just a saying. It's not intellectual love. He actually feels the love in his heart. Not only intellectual love. בחלל הימיני, in the right ventricle, בחשקה וחפצה. You ask the Benini, what do you want right now when you do a mitzvah? He'll tell you, I want godliness. Just like I want what? Just like I want steak. When I don't think about God. See, to want steak, you don't need to do anything. To want godliness, you have to hype yourself up. Even the Beinani. It doesn't come easy. He has to hype himself. He has to put energy into the system to want godliness. לדווקא בו, to attach himself to God, בקיום המצוות דאורייתא ודרבנן. In the commandments from the Torah and the commandments from the Rebbe. And of course, the hardest commandment is learning Torah every second of the day. He has to hype himself up for it. He doesn't spend a second not learning Torah. If he has a second, he's not doing a commandment, he's not helping the wife, he's not with the kids, he's not in his business, what does he do? He thinks. He's learning Torah. He's attaching himself to God. That's what the Benini does. Like I say, not necessarily does he want to, but he's going to do it. And yes?
No, if he convinces himself it's pleasurable and it's joyful, and it's,
excellent.
If he convinces himself of that, then he's actually fooling you. Excellent question. He's going to discuss your question right now. Right now, yeah.
Where does, the Ramchal that I study separately talks about the Hidur mitzvah?
Some other time.
But the extra on the mitzvah, is that an extra love like your wife? You can bring her flowers, but if you go and buy a nicer bouquet...
Some other time. Or we can discuss it in the end also. Let's get that concept over here. ויתר על כן, and more than this. He knows, by the way, the Alter Rebbe knows our evil inclination. Our evil inclination is going to tell us right now, forget about becoming ever a Beinani. I will never be able to reach that level. I'll never be able to reach a level where I love God with the fiery love towards God. So in other words, let's throw this whole book away because it's not practical. And he knows, the Alter Rebbe, that's what you're thinking right now. So he's going to tell you, you're wrong, and I'll tell you, don't think the way you're thinking. And why? Why? ויתר על כן, and more than this, צריך לידע כלל גדול, you need to know an important rule, בעבודה לבינונים, in the service of a בינוני, שגם אם אין יד שכלו, that if you're not able intellectually, ורוח בינתו, with your wisdom, with your intellect, you're not able to get to, משגת להוליד אהבת השם, when you think about God constantly, you learn 2 hours about godliness, you contemplate, you meditate, you learn 2 hours every morning about godliness, and you still don't love him. Many people tried it. I've tried it. I still love the steak more than I love tefillin. There's nothing I can do. What am I going to do now? So what should I do now? Should I throw the book away? So what should I do?
Put some A1 on your tefillin.
Or put some A1 in the tefillin. בהתגלות ליבו, it is the love of God doesn't come revealed in my heart. שיהיה ליבו בוער כרשפי אש. That my heart is going to be burning with desire to godliness. You should see when I get a new phone. Ooh, how happy I am. Yeah? I've never been so happy doing anything for God. וחפץ בחפקה וחשקה ותשוקה מוגשת בלב, that he wants to attach himself to God, felt in his heart. You connect him to a machine, nothing changes. When he gets a new phone, oh, you can see, he gets excited. Gets a new car, oh, you can see, he gets excited. Daven Shachris, nothing, stays the same as he's brushing his teeth. What is that all about? So what's the use? Why am I going to contemplate every morning for 2 hours thinking about godliness? It doesn't help anyway. What does the Benini have? רק האהבה מסותרת במוחו. He has a hidden love of God which is hiding in his brain, in his intellect. Let's explain this. See, he doesn't feel, if I ask you, can you imagine Rabbi Akiva putting on tefillin? Everybody can imagine. Can you imagine Rabbi Akiva? Can you imagine the heart of Rabbi Akiva as he puts on tefillin? He's burning with desire. He's in love. He loves doing it. Yeah? That's what he's doing it. Do you appreciate, let's call it the way, do you appreciate his level? This is the level he's talking about. It's true. Maybe you can't reach that level. If I can go like this and make you get it, would you want it? Absolutely. You want to be there. In other words, you want to have the love of God. You not necessarily do have the love of God, but you think that I appreciate it. I desire it. Am I ever going to get it? Maybe not, but I want it. A tzaddik, when he puts on tefillin, has the love of God. Do I want it? Absolutely. I do want it. I want to be like him. Am I going to be like him? Not necessarily. For sure, not the amount that he has of love. But some kind of love, a little bit, maybe I can get to. But after a while that a person has done it for 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 70 years, and you notice, look, I've been doing it for 70 years, and I don't have even a little bit love of God. I don't have nothing in the desires. I still like steak and Coke more than I like tefillin. What am I going to do now? So he tells you, do you want to like tefillin more than steak? He says, that's enough. Why? דהיינו שהלב מבין ברוח חוכמה ובינה שבמוחו, the heart understands in the aspect of intellect, of חוכמה and בינה that is in intellect, גדולת אין סוף ברוך הוא. He understands the greatness of God. That what? דכולי קמא כלא חשיב, that this world is nonsense. This Coke is nonsense. The steak is nonsense. What's the important things in life? Torah and mitzvahs. You understand it intellectually. Maybe not emotionally. Maybe not viscerally. But intellectually, you do have the grasp of it. Now, let's look at the Kitvei Arizal. If you see there's going to be a Hagaha, small little print on the left-hand side of the page. If you see it in the Hebrew, it's on page 69. It's like in a box. And it's going to explain to us how come some people can't reach a love of God in their heart. And it only remains intellectual. It doesn't become physical viscerally. והסיבה לזה, the reasoning from this, היא מפני היות המוחים שלו, it is because his intellect, ונרן שלו, and the נפש, רוח, נשמה, his 3 levels of the soul, מבחינת עיבור והיעלם תוך התבונה. They are impregnated, they're in the level of impregnation, inside his intellect. ולא מבחינת לידה, and they were not born. So let's explain this. Why does a 5-year-old doesn't love money? If you give him $100 bill or a lollipop, he's going to take the lollipop. So the reason is, he doesn't understand money. When he's going to understand what money does, what money is, he's going to start loving money. Otherwise, he's going to love a toy car much more than a $100 bill. Because a toy car he can play with. A $100 bill, he has no appreciation of. He doesn't have any contemplation of what it is. How come when he grows up, he starts having appreciation? So, in order to give birth to an emotion, you need understanding. Once a person understands what money can do, or what money is, the person is going to start loving money. It comes from intellect, that love. So, the same thing with God. It is impossible to love God if you don't know Him, if you don't think about Him. I'm going to have another question. As much as you're going to learn about God, our understanding of God has no shape, has no thing. What do you think? What do you mean learning about God? But at some other time in the Tanya, we're going to discuss that meditation, like I said, in page 38 to 40. In chapter 38 to 40. We're going to discuss that. Nevertheless, the person contemplated godliness for a long time, and is not able to bring an emotion, to bring into life the love of God in his heart. In other words, as we said, the emotions are the offsprings of intellect, as we learned. And therefore, if you want to love God, you need to understand God. The more you understand God, the more you will love Him. And he understands God and he thinks about it. But what? His neshama is not refined enough. So he does have a little baby in his intellect. And he does have a little baby even in his emotions. But the emotions, the baby doesn't come out into this world. It's trapped always in the pregnancy. That's what Kabbalah explains. It's trapped in the emotions. It never comes out as a fully born child, as the formed child. So you have something, the person is pregnant with it, but he's never going to really feel it. It's never going to come out to life. But what does he have? He has an understanding, asher al ken ya'ateh lo yitbarach, that it is proper for him, for the Beinoni, shetichle elav nefesh kol chai, that every creature will want godliness, leidabek v'likalel beoro, to be part of God. He has that feeling. I wish I was, and that's the way it should be. He appreciates it, let's call it. He sees the value of it. He wants to be there, even though he's not. Vegam nafsho verucho, not only is it befitting for every creature to want to be attached to godliness, I personally also want to be attached to godliness. Vegam nafsho verucho asher bekirbo, my soul that's inside of me, ken ya'ateh lahen, it is befitting for them to be so. Liot kalot elav, to be going towards godliness, attaching himself to godliness, bechasheka vechafetza, with great desire. Latzet min nartikanu aguf, to go away from this body who traps the person into physical pleasures, ledavka borak, ledavka bo, to attach himself to godliness. But he's not able to. He wants to, but at least he has the comprehension that that's the right thing. That's what I want. רק שבעל כורחו חיות הנה בתוך הגוף וצרורות בו כאלמנות חיות, but the body, this desire is entrapped within your physical desires. ולית מחשבה דלהון תפיסה בכלל, כי אם כאשר תפיסה הוא מתלבשת בתורה ומצוותיה. But he does realize that the only way for him to attach to God is when he does Torah and mitzvahs. And he wishes he could. כמשל המחבק את המלך הנזכר למעלה. Like we learned, a person attaches himself to the king by hugging the king. I'm not going to discuss it right now. We might discuss in the end of the class, if we have some time. ואי לזאת, and therefore, יעתה להם לחבקו בכל לב ונפש. So it is befitting for him to attach himself to God with his entire desires, ומאוד. Dehainu, that's what keeps him kiyum atayag mitzvot. That's what keeps him doing all the 613 commandments. That desire, that I ought to be there. This is what I should strive for. I'm the son of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's the way God made me. Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov expect me to be there. I can be there. That's the way God designed me. Even though I desire physical pleasures, I ought to be there. At least have that feeling. In doing all the 613 mitzvahs, commandments, במעשה ובדיבור ובמחשבה, in thought, speech, in action, in all the three garments, שהיא השגת וידיעת התורה. This is what it means to do all the commandments and understand all the Torah. הנה, behold, כשמעמיק בעניין זה, a person has to contemplate what we just discussed. בתעלומות תבונות ליבו, he has to really think about it, even though it's not a visceral desire in his heart. It's going to be an intellectual desire in his brain. ומוחו פיו וליבו שווים, and he cannot lie and says, I want something when he doesn't really want it. You can say, I want to be able to study here. I'll give you an example. I want to put on tefillin every day. I do. I can tell you that 100%. My heart and my brain is the same. Can I tell you, I want to never speak Lashon Hara again. I want to? No, sometimes I enjoy to speak a little bit Lashon Hara. It's enjoyable. Yeah. By the way, you ask Rebbe, you speak. By the way, everything you find in a newspaper or on CNN or on Fox, not 99%, 100% is Lashon Hara.
You can't talk about politics.
You can't talk about anything.
You can't talk about anything.
You can only talk about things. You cannot talk about people doing things. Once you talk about people doing things, tell me, Rami, do you really want to live such a life? I don't know. And then you're asking me a hard question. I have to think about it. That means a Beinani doesn't have to think about it. Intellectually, yes, I want to. Do I have a desire to look at the news? I do. Am I going to? Absolutely not. And I want to be there. I don't even want to be there. I want to check what's going on with the politics in Israel once in a while. Yes.
Is listening just as bad as participating?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So don't watch the news, it's a distraction, basically?
Okay. Now you're asking practical questions. Over here we're talking about what a Beinani is. Practical question, it depends on the level of the person. Each person is going to get a different answer for that. We discuss that some other time. Yeah? But what it should be, the way a Beinani is, his heart and his mind has to be equal. שמקיים כן בפיו, that he's not going to say, God, I wish I would learn every second of the day. Do I wish I would learn every second of the day and never relax? No. I don't really wish it. Do I want to be on such a level? Yes. But do I really wish it on me? See, a Beinani really wishes it. He will be there. If you tell me, I can make you be there just like this. I say, well, hold on a second, let me think about it. You know, this is the problem. A Beinani really wants to be there. Really appreciates it. כפי שנגמר בתבונות ליבו ומוחו. In other words, you know how usually we know what the right thing to do is. Why don't we do it? It's hard. It's too much energy. It takes too much. Each and every one of us, when they have an argument with the wife, know that the argument will end as soon as you really say to your wife, honey, you know what? Let's do it your way. You know, let's do it. Why don't we do it? Why? Why don't we do it?
We don't want to be wrong.
No, because it's hard. We have an ego. And the ego tells me, I'm going to die on this hill. That's what the ego tells you. It's hard, even though we know we're wrong. See, a Beinani will always tell his wife, honey, you're right, let's do it your way. And that's it. He's not going to start with the arguments. דהיינו, להיות בתורת השם חפצו, בינוני intellectually wants to be with God, ויהגה ביומם ולילה, and he's going to contemplate godliness day and night, בפיו, in his mouth, וכן הידיים בשאר איברים מקיימים המצוות, and also all the other limbs are going to do the commandments, כפי מה שנגמר בתבונות ליבו, according to what he decided is appropriate for a human being to act like. He's a serious person. He came to a conclusion, this is the right thing. You know what he's going to do? He's going to do it. You know, there was a time in Israel where they changed the halacha. They changed the laws. We're coming to yeshiva. We're talking about times of the Gemara, the Mishnah. Yeah? There used to be a law that if a student learned something, ever, and one time he learned something, he knew about a concept, and the next day he didn't do it, he would be kicked out of yeshiva. That's what you're talking about over here. What do you mean you know it and you're not doing it? What does it mean? By the way, the reason why they changed, because there weren't enough students. So they said, let's bring everybody, even those who are not this stringent. But that's the way. A Beinoni is on that level. He hears something, he knows it's the right thing, he goes for it, he does it immediately. He doesn't play around like us. בתבונות ליבו ומוחו, הרי תבונה זו מתלבשת במעשה דיבור ומחשבת התורה. So this kind of understanding, even though he doesn't have a desire in his heart, he has it only in the intellect, להיות להם בבחינת מוחים וחיות וגדפין לפרחה לעילה. Let me explain what's going on over here. Couple of things. When it comes to commandments, in Judaism, the main part of doing in Judaism in commandments is to do the commandment. We don't care about your intention. Intention doesn't matter at all in Judaism. Take the example, two people are standing on a river, the river is flowing, and somebody is floating down the river, is going to drown. And one person looks at him and he laughs. Hey, 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 it's fun to see a man drown. And the other guy sees, oh, it's a terrible thing. The guy is drowning. And this is the two scenarios that can happen. The guy who thinks that it's a terrible thing, the guy is drowning, he jumps into the river to save him. And then he realizes, I'm not really a good swimmer. So he hangs on the other guy, and both of them go down and they both die. He had great intention, but what happened? He killed the guy. The other guy is laughing at both of them dying. And then he has an idea. You know what? That guy, the first guy that was going around, I saw a big fat wallet in his pocket. So he jumps into the river and he swims over to him and he tries to take it out of his pocket. He can't take it out of his pocket, so he drags him over to the shore, he gives him one, knocks him out, and takes the money. You know what he just did? He saved his life. This is the way Judaism looks at commandments. You can have all the intentions of the world. You can be Rabbi Akiva with the intentions. But if you didn't eat matzah on Pesach, or the matzah that you did eat on Pesach was chametz, you didn't do the mitzvah. You had all the Kabbalistic ideas in the world. You didn't do the mitzvah. And if somebody is sitting on a Seder Pesach and somebody says, eat matzah, he says, I don't believe in this garbage. I don't believe in Judaism. I don't believe in what you're doing. And then a non-Jew comes in with a gun, puts a gun into his head, and says, if you don't eat the matzah, I'm going to kill you. And he eats the matzah quickly. He did a mitzvah. This is what Judaism is. But, there's going to be a big but now. When God told us to do commandments, He told us to do commandments with awe and love. Let's take an example. A person walks with his son into a psychologist, and he tells the psychologist, my son misbehaves constantly. He doesn't do the right thing. So the psychologist discusses it with the family, and then he notices the problem. He tells the father, there's a reason why. It's because you don't show him love. Hug him. He says, 10 times a day, hug your boy. Show him some love. Show him some love. So the guy, that's what needs to be done. He's a yeke. You know what a yeke means? He does exactly what he does. So 10 times a day he comes and he squeezes the kid. After a while, after the 2 weeks of it, he says he becomes bored. He gets a machine and he tells the boy, 10 times a day, come over here, stand where the machine is, and the machine is going to give you a squeeze. And that's what he was. Was that the intention when the psychologist told the father to hug the child? What did he mean? Did he mean to squeeze him, or did he mean to love him? He meant to love him. But how to love him? If he just loves him in his brain and he's not going to give him a hug, is the child going to feel the love? No. So he tells him, you have to physically hug. But the commandment is not so much on the squeeze. It's on the squeeze with the love. The same thing over here. The commandments that a Benny does is not just a commandment that we do. What do? We squeeze God constantly throughout the day. Putting on tefillin, we squeeze him. There's no difference between the way we put on tefillin and the way we brush our teeth. We squeeze here, we squeeze there, we squeeze here. Guys, you need me to pray for you here? I'll say the words. I say the words over here and I say the words over there. Is there emotions behind it? Like a Beinoni? So it says that a mitzvah is like a bird. You have the mitzvah if you do the act, but without the 2 wings, love of God and awe of God, while doing the mitzvah doesn't elevate. The mitzvah doesn't ascend. The mitzvah is not a proper mitzvah. It is, you have the commandment, you're going to get the points, but the commandment doesn't ascend to God. We'll have to discuss later on what it means. So we say this Beinoni doesn't have the love of God and the awe of God in his heart. You remember, he's not capable of doing it. He's not able to get to such a level. It's only intellectually that he loves it and have awe of God, like us. He's talking about us pretty much. So what do? We're never going to have that, do the mitzvahs properly. So he says, it's not, the feeling is not felt in his heart. We don't feel a fiery love towards God when we do the commandments. But the Alter Rebbe says, because it is there, hiding in his intellect, and it is pregnant within his heart, that intellectual thought, that's the thing that brings him to do all the commandments throughout the day. It's enough to do the commandments. It brings the person to keep all the commandments and to stay away from all the sins. And if he wouldn't contemplate it for 2 hours a day or whatever we're going to see later on, every day, he wouldn't do it, klal, at all. What would he have done? He would have taken care of his bodily needs, a little bit more steak, a little bit more women. So he says, we learned about some people just likes to learn. We discussed it before. They inherently like to learn. So he says, it doesn't matter. Even a person that inherently likes to learn, that's the way he was born, still he appreciates physical pleasures more. וגם אם הוא מתמיד בלימודו בטבעו, אף על פי כן אוהב את גופו יותר בטבעו. A person loves his body more, and that's natural. Even though he can be the biggest scientist in the world, Einstein, He appreciates God, science to a certain degree. Yeah, to a high degree. He loves his physical pleasures more than he would love science. In some aspects. וזה רמזו רז"ל, and this is what the sages says, באמרם, when they say, מחשבה טובה, הקדוש ברוך הוא מצרפה למעשה. This is a very important rule. It says, good thought, God enjoins it, puts it together with deed. Now, most people, how do they understand this statement? They understand that if you wanted to do something and you weren't able to, God is going to consider it as if you did it. But that's not what it means. How do we know it's not what it means? Because if that's what God wanted to tell us in this statement, it says, "V'havale lemeimar," it would have been written, "Me'aleh alav hakatuv ki'ilu asa." It should be written that God will consider it as if you did it. Over here, it doesn't say as if you did it. It says when you have a good intention, God enjoins it to the deed. In other words, the deed has to be there. Without the deed, there's nothing. In other words, let's go back. You have a Beinoni that does the commandments correctly. What does it mean, does the commandment correctly? God told me to love the child. So I do the commandment, I hug him, and in the hug you can be feeling the love. He does the commandment properly. That's a Beinoni, that's the way he's supposed to do it. But there's other levels. There's some of us can learn, can contemplate, can do whatever. And we don't have the fiery love of God within the hug. When we do the commandments, it's not going to be with fiery love. You cannot measure it on our hearts. It's only intellectual love. This is what it says, machshava tova, if you have good intentions, if you only have intellectual love, what is God going to do? God is going to consider it as if it is real love. And He's going to enjoin it to that action, to bring that action up towards God. Why? Because it's not up to you. You did everything within your own power. You did whatever you could do. You can't bring birth and love to God. It's not your fault. Some people God made more refined. Some people God less refined. So even though we are less refined, it's enough that we have that intellectual, that I want to be there. That's enough for you, for God to bring up this mitzvah up to godliness. I think we will stop over here.